Well, it's 2:30, and you're listening to Maluti FM 97.1. Well, we've got a special message today. Thomas, happy birthday. I hope you have a blessed year ahead and you just have lots of love and laughter. Well, it's time for our Insert Lifestyle, and we're chatting to Dave Henderson. He's all the way from MYeBooks in the Cape. Dave, how are you today?
I'm very good. I just want to start off by saying happy birthday to Thomas.
Oh, thank you. I think you'll appreciate it. Dave,
Perfect.
you've been on a road trip and you had a lovely Christmas and a New Year. How does it feel to be back in Cape Town?
It feels pretty damn hot. Every year I like to hit the road and kind of travel through the country, rubbing shoulders with a lot of my authors. And this year was no different. I mean, although we did it masked up, but it was a trip that was well spent.
Did you meet any new authors, any exciting ones?
I did. It's always good. The authors tend to be scattered through the main CBDs you would imagine. So the sort of Joburgs and the Cape Towns have a lot of self-publishing authors, but there are also quite a few in the sort of far reaches. So I actually know of a few authors in Clarence, as well as sort of KZN side. So it's always a fun trip to kind of go visit them where they live and share a cup of coffee.
Well, Dave, just share with our listeners, who is Max? He
Who is
accompanied you on
Max?
the trip.
Max?
Yeah.
Max is our very important author mascot. So Max was a sort of a project we started a couple of months back, where I know what it can be like for an author, because we tend to be introverts. We tend to kind of spend a lot of time behind our desks, and so the thought of having a bit of a author cuddle companion popped into our heads, where we spent a lot of time designing what we thought was the cutest possible puppy. And he's designed to actually sit there on the desk. He has a bit of a pouch around his neck as well to carry any bits and pieces that an author might have, but essentially just to keep the author company while they're tapping away at their keyboard, after hours.
Yes. And also to keep you on well behavior.
He's not doing a very good job, but yeah, no, he came with on the road trip. He was buckled in alongside me in the passenger seat. If anyone wants, they can see a picture of Max. And so it's a handmade puppy that we have ready for authors. And so at the moment we actually have a litter of Maxes scattered around our offices here in Cape Town.
So, Dave, any ebook author aspire to attract as many readers as possible. Now, I've seen you in action. You take no prisoners. Break it down for us. What is the perfect or the recommended ebook layout and the structure? What should it look like?
So take a step back. Authors shouldn't be confused by ebooks. What typically happens is when an author considers an ebook or considers going online, they seem to think the rules of book design change. They seem to think that, the way you find readers all of a sudden, involves magical internet use. And the truth is, actually, when it comes to making an ebook, and when it comes to publishing the ebook, and when it comes to how readers might find the ebook, you'd be surprised that actually not much has changed. So, for example, when it comes to how readers find an ebook when it's online, the number one method is actually still referrals from friends. That has never changed. It's now simply the bookshop where they find the book their friend recommended. Might be Amazon, for example. And when it comes to book design, what typically happens is a book designer who's had way too much coffee at night and is working on your ebook, actually adapts the print layout to become the ebook. So generally, you would take a good-looking book interior that's been designed already for print and adapt that quite easily to become an ebook. In other words, the first step is actually having a good-looking interior for print that then gets adapted to become an ebook. So there's the topic of design for paperback or hardcover. That's quite a well-established topic. I'm pretty sure it's a simple Google search away, but technically you should have a designer guiding you through that process. And ebooks do have a few, special things because I don't want to get too technical, but there's a few different flavors of ebook. There is the general reflowable ebook, which means that it is mostly text text, and it will shape to fit any screen size. So if you picture your normal romance novel where it's very simple text, no fancy pictures or tables or graphs, and now that book shapes itself to fit any screen size, and that technology is called a reflowable ebook. And the alternative, which is where you have a very detailed layout, is a fixed layout ebook. And what that means is generally for books like children's books or cookbooks or anything else with with various amounts of visual detail, where it has to look a certain way, and that's called fixed layout, and that's a different flavor of ebook we can make. So most people go for reflowable, and the basic rule with reflowable ebooks is the simpler the interior looks, the better. And then if an author does have something a bit more fancy, like a cookbook or something like that, we can help them with a fixed layout ebook, which means that it's an ebook, but it still retains some of the visual styling where the author wants it.
Now, Dave, the best advice that I ever heard was don't be tempted to do a cover page for your book yourself or have a friend do it. What's your...
Yeah, it's when you say self-publishing to an author or to a reader, there's this sort of moment where they look at you like they smell something really bad. And that self-publishing stink, that happens for a few reasons. And it's such obvious reasons where self-publishing means the author is exposed to cost where they didn't think they would be. So typically the fantasy goes, I'm going to knock on Penguin's door, I'm going to become famous and rich, and they're going to take care of all the nuts and bolts of publishing and marketing. Now that works for a fraction of a percentage of the authors out there. For the rest of them, self-publishing is the option, which means that you go through the same steps, but now you're exposed to the cost of each step. And so what an author does is they tend to take care of what they think they can, or they have friends take care of certain steps. So for example, don't worry about editing, I will edit my own words. And when it comes to cover design, I have a friend or I have a family member who designs in Microsoft Paint, and I'm going to use them. And the problem is that is what leaves the lingering stench of self-publishing on your book. And people can see it a mile away. They can see a cover that was designed by the author or was designed cheaply. And you can see a manuscript, a book inside that's been designed in Microsoft Word as well. And so it's a bit of a catch-22 where you should put your best foot forward, but you also need to pay for quality sometimes. And things like cover design and things like editing, where you save money is where you tend to get a worse result on the other side. And so I can understand why an author might want to cut corners, but then they also need to accept the risk that what they're putting out into the world isn't as good as it possibly can be. And the readers will quite easily spot that, and you end up with a book online with some very, bad reviews.
Well, Dave, looking at the copyright page, there's so many things. There's your ISBN, your copyright notice, everything. Would you advise them to get a disclaimer?
So it depends on the sort of book you're writing. So for example, a standard copyright page changes depending on if you're writing fiction or nonfiction. So for every author we help, it's not hard to find a kind of downloadable standard copyright page to insert. Your book needs to have it, and generally it'll be in the front matter. So as the book starts, you'll have a copyright page on maybe the first or second page. And if you're doing, for example, a storybook, a fiction book, you would normally have a disclaimer to the effect of like the characters in your are fictional and any resemblance is purely coincidental. Whereas if you're writing a book maybe on self-help, you might want a disclaimer saying, listen, I'm not a professional. What I'm giving here is advice. Make sure that if you really have, some deep problems, that you chat with a paid professional, for example. So yeah, the type of copyright page or the flow of the copyright page does depend partially on your genre of book. It also depends on the format of book, because generally what appears on the copyright page is also an ISBN number, which, as you and I spoke about in one of our previous chats, needs to have a unique number per format of book. So an ebook ISBN, a paperback ISBN, an audiobook ISBN. And that also appears on that copyright page in the front matter.
Dave, is it good to have dedications and acknowledgements? Would you advise that for an author, or do you usually clutter it up?
So you could take things like dedication, acknowledgements, forewords, introductions, and typically an author comes and knocks on my door and says, do I need this? Do I need to have an introduction? Do I need to have a foreword? And flip the question around and, does your book require it? Is your message, whatever your book is about, is that forward? Is it important to the reader? So it makes sense if you've invested a lot of time that you might want a dedication to say, hey, thanks to my wife, for bearing with me over the last couple of years while I was writing this book. Or you might want to thank someone who played a pivotal role in sharing information or research with you. A foreword also serves a purpose for a nonfiction author because it lends credibility if you can source a foreword from someone who's quite well known in an industry. Your book can then be tagged as having a foreword from a very famous person. And likewise, if you go online and a person searches for the person who left your foreword, that becomes searchable within Amazon. If someone's searching for that person, your book would also appear under the search results. So generally my advice is, and it does also apply to the book length, where an author says, how long should my book be? And it should be long enough to get your message across to the reader. And when it comes to what front and back matter you should have, like a foreword or introduction, you only put it in if your book needs it or if you want to. But don't include something for the sake of including it, because that becomes very obvious to readers.
Well, we're going to take a music break. We'll be back with Dave Henderson on eBooks. The program Santini Irglas and the insert is Lifestyle. We're talking to David Henderson from MYeBooks in Cape Town. Dave, is it very egotistical to put a biography of the author in?
Not at all. No, it's actually a good marketing idea, because what you're doing is, what happens if a reader has finished your book and they actually really loved it, and now they want to know a little bit more about who wrote the book. Maybe they want to get in touch and send you an email or leave a review saying that was amazing, thank you so much. And the bio basically gives the happy reader direction. So it's not at all about sort of honking your own horn. But think about someone who's read the book who wants to know more. And the author biography, which you normally put it, for example, at the end of the book, is not only to include a bit about the author or a good picture of yourself as the author as well, but also have a strong call to action. So if I loved your book, where can I find you? Do you have a website? Is there an email address I can send you sort of my comments and feedback on? Do you have other books that I could read as well? And so that normally forms part of the back matter at the end of the book once the reader's finished up. And again, it just makes good marketing sense.
Dave, another question I wanted to ask you. If you have published in paperback or hardcover and you then want to go to an ebook, if you take it to a new company, for example, MYeBooks, does it need to be re-edited, or how do you go about that?
See, it depends a lot on the agreement you have. When you partner with a company, it depends on what kind of paperwork or contracts you sign, because the way we work and the way I'd recommend an author works is you don't necessarily want to partner with a company where you're paying a big chunk of money and then they retain the copyright and you get a small commission. Ideally, you want to swing either way. One way is that you sign a contract with them where they foot the bill for any cost to the book, but then you get paid a percentage of sales. And the alternative is, for example, with a proper self-publishing partner, where you pay the bills up front, but everything belongs to you and there's never any risk of you not owning what is created. And so those are the two kind of best options, for an author to go with, just to make sure that they're protected. And when it comes to sort of chatting with a new potential publishing partner, one of the easiest, bits of advice I give to an author is just they should put your mind at ease. You should enjoy talking with them. They should speak your language. A lot of authors get bulldozed by sort of someone who's trying to do a hard sell, big words, fancy-sounding words, which generally ends up with you paying quite a big invoice without really understanding why. And so just make sure they come down to your level and they talk in a way that you can understand as the author.
Dave, if there are any of the Free State authors that want to contact you, do you have an email address?
We absolutely do. So instead of the email address, what I'd recommend an author does is hop on our website, which has everything an author needs to know, including a beautifully designed contact form, which prompts the author for which steps they might need help with, what their book might be about, and then that comes straight through to us. So our website, if you don't mind me giving it, is www.myebook.online. So it's MYEBOOK.ONLINE. And you can easily reach us directly from our website.
Dave, I'm just going to ask you to repeat that one more time for that person that grabbed the pen last.
No problem. Yeah, we got a .online domain, and I know it's a little bit weird for South Africans still to see that sort of website address. So it's www.myebook.online, which is spelled ONLINE.
Dave, thank you so much for that. We really appreciate it, and we'll be chatting to you next week again.
Looking forward to our next chat. Thanks.
Thank you. That was Mr. David Henderson, and he is from MYeBooks in Cape Town. If you do want your books published, you are more than welcome to give him a ring.